this week we're really excited. We have a special guest on this week, Olga, who is a financial and tax accountant. We've gotten millions, I swear, millions of questions about setting up VAT and stuff. And she is just the lady who's going to teach us all about it. Olga, how are you doing today?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Fantastic. Oh, we're doing great. And I can't stress enough how much ourselves as well as the rest of the audiences that you're coming on, because like I said, everyone has tons and tons of questions of this, especially people from other countries who don't live in the UK or the EU. So I know everyone's going to find a tremendous amount of value in this particular session.
Yeah.
Kim, what's the $1 million case study? If someone's just joining for the first time now, they missed out on a lot, but give us a rundown.
You really have missed a lot. So we are finding products to launch and sell on Amazon, and we have a target to raise $1 million of revenue, and we are donating the profits of that to charity. And the best part is we are showing you every step of the journey. And in this part, we're going to launch in Europe, and I'm going to be doing the work rather than Greg.
It's a fantastic thing to be a part of. It's really exciting, and our goal is to make it the undisputed best resource on the web for learning how to sell on Amazon. And I think we're doing a pretty good job of it. I think most people in the chat box would argue that for us. With that being said, are we forgetting anything before we get started?
No, I think we're good.
All right, so guys, I'm going to share my screen with you real quick. We have a lot to cover today, so I don't want to waste any time. All right, you guys should be able to see my screen now. So this is session number 6. We're talking about VAT in Europe and setting up your business. Okay, so VAT is a pretty large subject. There's kind of a lot to go into. Olga's going to do a really good job today helping us demystify a lot of it and at least teaching us everything we need to know as far as getting set up. Okay, so there may still be questions at the end of this, and if we have time, we're going to take some questions. But what I want everyone to walk away with this at the end is how to set up the VAT, so you can start selling on Amazon. And then we'll probably do another session on this down the road that talks a little bit more about the reporting requirements, specifically how you deal with Amazon and that kind of thing. Before we get into the meat of it, we are doing a giveaway this week, just like we do every other week. So you can enter at junglescout.com/giveaway. We're selecting a winner every single week for all of 2017. So if you're watching the replay, don't feel like you've missed out. You can still enter this. And we have a few winners from last week. This name's hard for me to pronounce, Cam. We have Chatelian. He said, "Hello, I've discovered Jungle Scout. I'm happy to share that since my first views of the video, which I'm still following." And he posted a picture of himself here jungle scouting. And I'm rocking my jungle scouting shirt today. Dan has also won, who's told a story about how he's gotten started, which is a really fantastic thing to read and very inspiring. So I appreciate you guys for entering the giveaway. We also have Abubakar, the winner of the Jungle Scout shirt. And he said, thanks Jungle Scout, because he's made $2,000 within 20 days of his first product. I will be launching another one very soon, and he even included a screenshot. And wow, that's really inspiring. A little bit of my background: I'm an immigrant guy from a third world country. So this is the story that we love seeing, and hopefully everyone watching this can replicate the same success. So where are we at in our journey so far? Sessions 1 and 2, we did our product research. We generated our ideas. We learned how to narrow down that list. We did supplier outreach. We brought on a great guest to help us learn how to communicate with factories. Last session, we nailed down specific product design criteria. And today we have Olga on, thankfully, because she's going to help us get set up with our VAT and all the legal stuff. The thing that I think is holding a lot of people back, because there seems to be so many questions with it. So with that being said, Olga, do you want to go ahead and share your screen with us?
Yep.
And we'd love to learn a little bit more about your background. And yeah.
Okay. Okay. So my name is Olga, and I'm very happy to be here today. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm a qualified accountant. with more than 10 years of accounting experience. And I used to work for big corporations, and now I work at a well-established London-based consultancy practice. And I help my clients with all day-to-day accounting and bookkeeping, with statutory reporting and company information, VAT registration, and reporting. I'm also the Amazon seller myself, and I've been watching Greg's show since February, and I was really inspired with his jungle stick case study. So I decided to try myself.
Cool. It's not
And,
often we bring on guests who are also following what you do about case study and selling, so that's awesome.
yeah, so now I really feel like because I got so many information from this case study and from your videos, so I really feel that I want to give something back and contribute at some point like for this project. So today I'm going to help all of you to understand more about UK VAT implications and your compliance obligations.
All right, fantastic.
So VAT is a tax that businesses have to charge when they sell goods or services in the UK and European Union. VAT is also charged on goods which are imported from places outside of European Union. So there are 3 different rates of VAT, and you must make sure that you charge the right amount. So most goods and services are standard rate, and this standard rate VAT in the UK is 20%. Some goods apply like a reduced rate. It's normally, as an example, is the children's car seats and domestic fuel or power, which charged at 5%. Zero rated means that goods are still VAT taxable, but the rate of VAT you must charge your customers is 0%. You still have to record them in your VAT accounts and report them on your VAT return. Like some examples, like necessities as food, books, newspapers, children's clothes, and shoes. Most goods you export from non-EU countries. And goods you supply to VAT registered businesses in the European countries. You can follow the link at the bottom to check what VAT rate you should apply. And how VAT works. In the VAT settlement, there are 2 sides, output VAT and input VAT. So output VAT is the value-added tax you calculate and charge on your own sales of goods. In this example, the product net price is £100, and if you apply a standard VAT rate 20%, the total VAT included in the price is £20. If you sell, say, 10 products, the total VAT payable for this period is £200. So the input VAT is the value-added tax added to the price when you purchase goods or services liable to VAT. This includes input VAT that you paid at the customs. In our example, during the same period, we bought a laptop for £1,000. The VAT that seller charged you was £200. So the total amount you paid for the laptop was £1,200. So in the VAT return, you deduct input VAT from output VAT and pay the difference to HMRC. If your purchases exceed your sales in any one period, the difference will be negative, and the difference will naturally be refunded to you. In our example, the VAT payable is nil, so you don't need to pay anything. And now I think that everybody very eager to hear more about input VAT and how to calculate it for your business planning and profit calculations. So if you import goods that you bought from non-EU countries, they are normally charged at the same rate as if you had been supplied in the UK. So import VAT is not a disadvantage for you, as local companies will pay VAT on goods for their suppliers, and you will pay it straight to HMRC. And of course, you can reclaim the VAT paid on the goods you've imported as input tax. However, if you're a UK trader and not registered for UK VAT, you still have to pay the import VAT, but you won't be able to reclaim it. So how to estimate the import VAT that you will have to pay? The value for VAT on of imported goods is their customs value, which is product cost paid for your supplier, as well as packing, transport, insurance costs incurred up to the goods first destination in the UK. In our example, the custom value will be 1,000, and I'm not a big specialist in import duty calculation, so I just normally it's the percentage of custom value, and I use 5% in this example. But you definitely need to check with your broker, like for forwarder, or go online and get the right rate. In our example, the import duty is £50, and the total value for VAT calculation will be £1,050. So if your goods are at standard rate, the VAT payable will be 210. So the VAT obligations will vary, depends on your business establishment. So you are an overseas seller if your business is registered outside the UK, but you sell goods in the UK for UK customers. And there is no threshold if neither you or your business is based in the UK. You must register as soon as you supply any goods and services to the UK. So the other situation, if you are a UK seller, so in this case, you have a business establishment in the UK, including a branch or agency, and you are liable to register if at the end of any month, the value of your taxable supplies in the previous in your previous 12 months or less is over the registration threshold, which is currently £85,000. So, or at any time you expect the value of the taxable supplies will go over this registration threshold. If you EU seller, so your company is registered in EU member state, for example, France, and you make supplies to customers in the UK, that will call like a distance selling. So distance selling occurs when VAT registered business in one European Union country supplies and deliver goods to a customer in another EU country who isn't registered for VAT. So if you have a business establishment in any EU country, for example, France, and you make distance sales into UK, you are liable to register in the UK at any time during the calendar year from 1st of January if your total sales goes over the UK distance sales threshold, which is currently £70,000. And yeah, and this is the other way around. If you have a business establishment in the UK and you make distance sales into EU countries, you are liable to register in this European Union country if at any time during the calendar year your total sales goes over this country's threshold. And once registered, you will charge the VAT rate applicable to that country. So if your business is growing and you will have a VAT registration in several European countries, you need to remember that. So far, the European Union member states sets its own VAT rates, and each state can also set different VAT rates for different products or services, or even implement a zero VAT rate. But however, most products are taxed according to the standard VAT rate. And for example, just for you to know, like in Germany, you will have to pay 19% Sweden charged 25%, Italy 22%, Netherlands 21%.
I'm just going to interject at this point that this is so this would fall into what is a new program called the Pan-European program, which Amazon offer. It is more complicated, right, because of the different VAT rates in different EU countries. But it's something that we might cover at a later date if I decide to sell my product across Europe. And it does get sort of more complicated at that point, but we can cover it in more detail at a later date.
Yeah, so these last two slides are actually applicable for this pan-European scheme and explain the VAT implications that you will have. So yeah, pretty much you don't need to register to all European countries. You're selling your goods straight away. So it's enough for you to be registered in the UK, for example, if you decide to store your goods into the UK fulfillment center. And then as they program them, they will send your products to your customers in other European Union countries. And yeah, you just need to make sure that you check your sales regularly to make sure that you're not exceeding this threshold. Because it could be quite different. Like Germany, they have 100,000 threshold. And France, for example, 35,000. So it's quite different.
Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, that's what requirements do you need to fulfill once you registered. When you registered for VAT, you have a certain compliance obligation. You will need to charge the right amount of VAT and show the VAT information on your invoice. As far as I know, if the seller has opted to use Amazon's tax calculation service, then Amazon will do it for you. However, it's your responsibility to account for and pay that VAT to HMRC. And if you registered for VAT and supplying goods and services to VAT registered customers in other EU countries, you will have to send HMRC a list of your EU sales as well. But this is probably more for B2B business model. So it's not applicable for people who are selling to customers who are not registered for VAT.
Am I right in thinking that when I sell in the UK on Amazon, they will Amazon will automatically charge that VAT to my customers, and I am then responsible for collecting that, saving it, and then paying it back to HMRC?
Actually, the prices are displayed in your listing, exclusive of any applicable VAT for UK orders. So then you can calculate the VAT due on sales backwards. So you usually Amazon don't add up any VAT on top of your price. So Amazon will charge exactly that amount that you put on your listing, and it will be inclusive. And of course, they will charge this amount because you said them so. And then it's your responsibility to calculate this VAT and to pay it to HMRC. Yeah, and in order to see VAT exclusive prices, the seller probably must opt to this Amazon tax calculation service. But yeah, I'm not very sure at the moment. But
yeah, so that's something that once I have started to sell on Amazon, then in the UK, I'll be able to see how they provide the invoicing, and then that's how I will figure out the VAT.
Yeah,
but I think this is quite a big point of difference maybe for some of our American viewers. So the price that so if I were to sell sleeping bag for, let's say, £27, I will enter that price into Amazon, and then that will be inclusive of VAT. So the final price that I enter will be inclusive of VAT. Whereas in the States, usually your price is less, is exclusive of any taxes. So I think it's just worth mentioning for our US audience that that's a point of difference when selling in Europe.
Yeah, good point. Okay. So yeah, that's some things to consider. So you should register for VAT to get a European Seller Center account. But I think that this only applies to professional accounts, because you still can open personal Seller Center account without VAT registration. As you said, Kim, that you tried to register for the like private account, and Amazon didn't ask you for any VAT registration. Is that right?
Yes, I believe so. But then it more comes down to your legal requirements as to whether you need to pay VAT or not, I think. So for me, if I was a business or a person in the UK, I have a UK address and a UK bank account, I could set up my own UK individual Seller Central account in Europe, and that would be fine. I wouldn't need to register for VAT. But am I right in thinking, Olga, if I'm from the US, I need to register for VAT as soon as I am storing goods in the UK, because I would then be liable to pay VAT?
Yeah, exactly. So when you try to import your goods into the UK, you will have to register straight away. There's no threshold, as I said. Yeah, this threshold of 85,000 doesn't apply to overseas companies. So enjoy this threshold. You will have to register a company in the UK.
Sure. Okay. So for our American followers on this case study, the best advice would be, would you say, to just register for VAT straight away and then sign up for Seller Central?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Because there's no other way to go. Yeah. Because if you're a UK company, you still can import goods into the UK. But if you're not registered, you just can't claim it back. So it's like lost money for you.
Sure. Okay. Good to know.
Okay. So and yeah, Amazon will collect VAT on every sale. But you need to remember that prices on Amazon are VAT inclusive, so you need to make sure to account for VAT in your profit calculations. So for example, Amazon will give you the seller the total price less the fees. For example, you sell a product for £30 and Amazon fees is £4. So you will receive £26 on your account. In this case, you need to calculate VAT based on selling price of £30, not on the money you received from Amazon. So the seller can calculate the VAT due on sales backwards. If you divide 30 by 6, it gives you £5. So the VAT you will have to pay to HMRC on this sale is £5. So your profit will be £30 less £4 as Amazon fees, and less £5 for VAT, and that gives you £25. So I think now it's kind of clear. Yeah, that's actually more for this slide applies.
So the main learning here is that you need to calculate your VAT based on the selling price of the product rather than the money that you get from Amazon.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the common mistake that people think, okay, we received like my selling price £30 and then Amazon charged me £5. I received 25, so I'm gonna calculate my VAT liability based on this this money that I got into my account, but it's not the case. It's actually your selling price that you need to calculate your VAT amount, because your selling price on Amazon includes VAT.
And I'll just chime in here real quick because people probably have this question. I think it was week 2 or week 3, and you can find those recaps in the blog post. We did a kind of like a sample calculation of how to figure out what our kind of like profit margin would be, and we talked about factoring in VAT in there. So if anyone's watching this and you're curious, like what are my profits going to be once I consider VAT, that would be what I'd recommend for you guys to go and look at.
So yeah, first of all, your import VAT, you shouldn't consider this in your profit calculation. If you're a VAT registered company, you will have to claim it back. But yeah, then when you want to make sure that, for example, if you have a certain margin that you want to get, for example, 30%. So you know that you bought your product like 20 pounds, it costs you 20 pounds. Then you want to add your margin 30%. So you do this, and then on top of that, you need to add up 20% of VAT to make sure that you still receive this 30% margin. Or you can calculate it in a different way. For example, you know that you can sell this product for 30 pounds and no more. So that's the only price that you can charge. Then you deduct the 20% of VAT, and then you can calculate what's left for you, actually, what your product will be. So yeah, like that depends on how you're gonna.
That's a really good point, Olga. I guess so. What Greg was saying about the profit calculations that we did in session 3, it'd actually be really useful to take a look at, okay, so here's the maximum amount that I could sell it for, and maybe also look at the minimum amount and figure out how much profit you'd be making on those different price points, because as we know, you can play around with changing your price once you're selling a product to try and increase sales and profits, and generally when you launch a product, you're going to probably run some offers. So it's good to know like how much profit you're making at different price points, but importantly taking into consideration that 20% VAT.
Yeah, that's really important to remember about that, because you can end up like, oh yeah, I need to pay everything to the tax man. There's nothing left, pretty much. So yeah, so you really need to consider this in your profit calculation. Yeah. Okay, so probably now we can move into the registration process. So it's VAT registration process is really straightforward. So most businesses can register online. By doing this, you'll register for VAT and create a VAT online account. It's also known as a government getaway account. So you need this to submit your VAT returns as well. So normally, the information that you need to provide is your turnover, business activity, and UK bank details. But actually, there is a possibility to be registered without UK bank account. So you just probably just leave it blank and go for it. And it's actually said that in the notes to the form that you kind of need to provide the explanation. But I actually called to the helpline, to VAT helpline, to clarify this situation. And they said, "Oh, yeah, you actually can leave this box blank, and yeah, we receive this application every day, and there's no any problem with that." So it's kind of controversial. So because when you read the process, like how you need to register, you'll see that yeah, it should be UK bank account, but surprisingly, yeah, it's not the case. So the theory and the practice is like kind of a little bit different. So, so
I think I read somewhere, Olga, that if you do get set up with VAT without a bank account or bank account details, that you would then pay your VAT by check. So I guess that's how, if you're in the US, you would register, you'd provide a reason why you can't provide a UK bank account, and then you would pay your tax bill by check. From what it says on the UK help websites for the VAT help pages. And just so the audience knows, we do have a list of those coming up in the homework. So we've got all of the links that are being shown on these slides. They're going to be in a spreadsheet that you can access. So don't worry if you didn't get time to jot them down.
Yeah, well, you also can try to, even if you're an overseas business, you still can try and set up this UK business account. Yeah, it will be just more complicated because even for UK-based companies, their registration process is really difficult, and it will take you like probably 3 weeks just to get an appointment in the bank with the bank manager. Yeah, and then they put you into scrutiny. And also, you need to remember that you will need to come to UK and present yourself, like an ID check. So you also need to consider this, whether you want to spend that much of money, or probably just use it as a good excuse to come to London and enjoy yourself. Yeah. So it's up to you how you wanna like structure your business. So normally you should get the VAT registration certificate within 2 weeks. Sometimes it can take longer. Well, but I don't know exactly why. Probably if you try to register without UK bank account, it will take longer for you as well. And it will be sent to you through your VAT online account or by post. Depends on how you applied. You also, after registration, you need to comply, and you need to meet all obligations under UK VAT law. So this includes like keeping a record of everything you buy and sell in relation to a business in the UK. So pretty much your accountant can cover this. So in your accounts, you will need to keep a separate account for VAT, output VAT, input VAT, and then be ready to show this to HMRC if they're interested. And also you need to keep all the records of your VAT returns, and also, yeah, it's also you need to present it to HMRC for inspection if they ask. So I actually also asked how they will gonna check you if you're overseas and you don't have even the UK business address. So and they say, oh, no problem, you can send this online, like a scan copies. So that shouldn't be any problem for overseas sellers. So if you get under this inspection. And of course, paying the right amount of tax on time. So normally we provide the returns quarterly, but you can also choose to do it annually. But then you will need to pay monthly installment of VAT. Yeah, some people just don't like to do this. Probably time consuming. So yeah, most of the companies go for the quarterly payments and tax returns. So this, yeah. So if you choose to register in the UK. So this process is really simple. It's straightforward. You can just register online with Company House, and there's no any capital requirements. Yeah, you just need a suitable company name, and probably the only complication is a physical address in the UK. But it's not really an issue because you can rent a virtual office, or you can appoint your tax agent and use their address as your business address. So normally, if you're in the UK, people can use their home address as their office and the business address. So it's also very cheap to register. It costs you about £12. You can pay by direct and credit card, and it will be, yeah, you will get your registration number within 24 hours. So no problem at all. So that's things, to consider. It's actually a big question. What business model do you want to use, or what business structure? So when you're an overseas company, when do you want to register in the UK, if ever? So yeah, there's some benefits of being registered in the UK. For example, you can use this 85,000 threshold and don't pay any VAT if you're a UK registered company. And also the corporation tax in UK is quite low, especially compared to US taxes. But you definitely need to consult with your tax agent or your tax accountant, because there can be some other implication, and probably you will end up paying more. It will depend on your situation, like what's your residence, do you have any other, probably you have property somewhere, so it could be very complex issue how you want to structure your and to organize your international taxes, because now if you go into selling globally, you need really to apply this international tax planning to your business, so that you know how to probably mitigate your tax obligations all over the world. So yeah.
Olga, do you need to? So we were talking about import VAT earlier, so and that you could claim that back.
Yeah.
So do you need to get a UK company in order to be able to claim back that import VAT?
No, you just need to be registered for VAT.
Okay.
And then you can claim, actually you can claim all other business expenses as well. So for example, it's not only import VAT that you can claim. If you come to London for business trip and you spend money on the hotel here, like or any other cost that you probably bought some laptop as another example. So some business expenses, you all can claim it from at your VAT return. So that's another benefit, probably. Yeah. Okay. Probably, yeah. I think we're at the end of it.
Yeah. So before we go to the homework, should we do some questions? Or?
Yeah, sure. Olga, if you don't mind, can we do a few questions?
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. I'll just get you to stop sharing your screen real quick, and then we can dig into those. All right. So we have lots of questions to choose from. Let me see if I can grab a few here. There's a number of questions here that we kind of already covered, and I understand like there was a lot that we covered, guys. So we'll put all this up on our blog in the recap section as well, and we'll kind of like put this out in text, and maybe like that format would be easier for you to kind of learn from. So I'm going to try to grab a few of the questions here that like aren't or that I feel like maybe weren't covered like as clearly. So one good one, Olga, here is, so when you say like the import VAT, is that the same thing as what I think of as like import duties?
No, it's different. That's actually, if you go to this example, when we calculate the import VAT, so it's actually based on the custom value, and then you add import duty, like a percentage of this custom value.
Right.
So, and then on top of that, you add import VAT.
Okay. And that's at the normal rate of that respective EU country?
Yeah, so the VAT rate will be the same as applied for these goods if they have been bought in the UK.
Okay. So I pay VAT on it once when I import it. So that's
Yeah.
like the VAT on the value of the goods plus the duties and the value of the shipping. I pay VAT on that. And then when I sell the product again, I pay that same VAT rate for a second time on the product.
No, it's not you who pay. When you sell it, it's your customer who pay this VAT. So you collect this VAT from your customer. So in this
Okay.
case,
Right.
like imagine it's not your money actually. You're like an agent, a tax agent. So you collect this money from your customer, you keep this, and then you pay something to your supplier for, like, it could be import VAT or all your business expenses, like you book hotel, for example, for a business trip, and this price will include VAT. So you pay this VAT to the supplier of the services and goods. And then you just look, okay, it's just like two buckets. One bucket is output VAT, which you collected from your customers, and the other bucket is input VAT that you paid for your suppliers. And then you just look at this, okay, which one is bigger? So if your output bucket is bigger, you need to pay the difference to the taxman, to HMRC. If
Gotcha.
your input VAT bucket is bigger, then you can claim the difference back because you kind of overpaid VAT.
Right.
So
Okay.
you claim you collected less VAT that you paid yourself, so you can claim the difference back.
Cool.
That's
Okay.
how it works. Yeah.
Good to know. So I think like 60% or 70% of our audience or something is from the US. So if we were just to really simplify this for people who live in the US and want to sell, let's just say it's sell in the UK. Um, so they don't necessarily need to set up or they don't necessarily need to incorporate it in the UK, correct? But there are some potential cost savings if you sell enough money. Is that right?
Cost saving, if you want.
There is potential cost savings if you do register in the UK, right? Or no, because with Amazon, you don't get like that 83,000 or the 83,000 pound
Threshold.
threshold.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I think that you still can enjoy this 85,000 threshold even if you sell on Amazon.
Okay.
I can't see any reason why you can't, because if you register in the UK, this threshold applies to you. Even if you don't register and you import goods from abroad, you will pay this import VAT. The only thing that you can't claim it back, but at the same time, you don't charge this VAT from your customers. So yeah.
Right.
And actually,
Okay.
there's kind of savings in that as well. Yeah,
Okay.
it will be definitely a benefit for you to be registered in the UK, to be registered as a company in the UK and not register for VAT until you reach this threshold.
Okay. All right. Cool. And then as far as the UK bank account goes, we don't really need to worry about that if you're from the US, right? Because A, it sounds like it's a huge hassle, and B, it seems like there's ways around it everywhere, right? Like we figured out you don't need it to register for VAT. I'm 98% sure that Amazon, actually, I know they don't require like a UK bank account. So as far as that
Yeah,
goes, we just don't need to worry about it if we're American, right?
yeah. I think yeah, you can still register for VAT without bank account.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
and you definitely don't need to have a company set up in UK if you don't need to.
Okay, cool. In general, how often do you pay the HMRC? Monthly, annually, quarterly? It's another question we have.
It's quarterly if you choose so. You can pay. You can choose to submit your VAT return annually, but in this case, you will have to pay monthly installments, and
Oh,
it will be calculated by HMRC for you. Like they will say, okay, um, you want to report on this VAT annually, but then you will need to pay, say, like eight 8,000 monthly, and at the end and the end of the year, we will see whether you need to pay a little bit more, or we will
okay.
give you the difference back.
Right. Settle up at the end
So
of the year.
yeah, so you actually can choose between the two, what's more, convenient for you to use. So most of the businesses, they choose to do it quarterly.
Okay, cool.
Then you just calculate your VAT liability in the end of the quarter. You see how much you need to pay. You pay this, and that's it. Kind of
Gotcha.
easy.
All right, cool. Someone asked, where do you register for VAT? We had a link it a few slides ago, and then we'll put the link again in the blog post. But I bet if you Google register for UK VAT, that'd probably be the first one
Yeah,
to pop up too. So,
yeah. It's known as a gateway account. Yeah. So it's pretty simple to find there in the internet. So no problem. And
cool.
you need the basic information for that.
Cool. Thank you. All right, Kim, so you got some homework for these people or what?
Yes, there is
Teacher
some.
Kim.
Put up the slides.
Got it.
Awesome. So your homework for this week is to use Olga's advice to figure out how you want to set up your business. Obviously, we have looked at this from a UK perspective because that's where I'm launching my product. So this does vary from country to country. So if you are looking to register in Germany, then things may be slightly different. If there is anybody in the audience who has any experience or is an accountant in Germany or any other European country, then we would really love for you to share any knowledge or advice that you have, either in the blog post, in the comments, so that we can share that with the rest of the community. Because as you can imagine, it's really difficult to cover every single European country. So we're using the UK as a guide. So your homework is to figure out how you need to set up your business and to get VAT registered in the UK or in the European country in which you want to sell, and then sign up for a Seller Central account. So in the homework sheet, which is the links on screen, all of the links that we've shared in today's slides are in there, so you can access all of that and read any of the help documents. The links are in there for signing up for VAT to register in the UK. So my advice would be is to do your research based on your own specific circumstances. Again, not only are we looking at lots of different European marketplaces, but each individual seller is from a different place, will have a different business setup. So you need to figure this out for your own circumstances. And of course, if you need any sort of legal or tax and accountancy advice, then it's always best if you speak to a professional.
All right. And that wraps up this episode, guys. I really appreciate everybody joining. And Olga, I think I speak for everyone here when we say thank you very much for helping us out with all this. It's definitely kind of a complex subject, especially for people who aren't from the UK or the EU. So much appreciated. Guys, if you still do have any questions, I know there's a lot of questions in the chat box that we couldn't get to just due to time constraints. But if you want to put those in the comment section of the blog post recap, it'll be up in like 2 days on Friday or so. We'll do our best to try to get those answered. We'll help out. Maybe we haven't asked Olga yet, but maybe we could ask her nicely to help with a few of the questions or someone else. And we'll do our best to help you guys with this subject because I feel like it's what It's what's kind of holding a lot of people back, and it doesn't need to be. Like, you never need to, like, you never want like legal or like tax, like kind of like admin type tasks like hold you back from starting a business. That's not, it's not like the best way to go. So we'll do our best and everything we can to help, and we'll see you next week for, what are we doing next week?
So hopefully we're going to be,
Again, samples?
Yeah, so we're ordering samples right now. Hopefully I'm going to have some samples coming in soon. And hopefully we're also going to cover a few of the things to do with like importing, working with freight.
Package design, maybe.
Package design, working with freight forwarders, lots of different topics. So at the moment, it depends on when my samples come in. So we're kind of juggling lots of different things that we know we need to do. So yeah, tune in next week. Hopefully we'll cover some of those topics.
If you haven't already done so, junglescout.com/million. You'll be notified of all the future upcoming webinars. We're going to take you along every step of everything you need to know so you can follow along and launch your own product in the EU or in the US or wherever else. If you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, please, please, please do so. It's below. Or if you're tuning in on Periscope or Facebook, then give us the like button. And with that being said, thanks for tuning in, guys. And Olga, thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again. Take care. Bye.
Bye.